What is good, everybody? Welcome to the Gold Standard Podcast here on the Gold Standard Podcast Network. It's Thursday. You know what that means. I'm Rob Stats Guerrera. Alongside me, the human wet blanket, Levin Black. Hi, Levin.
What's up, Statsy?
What's going on? How you doing on this Thursday?
Not gonna lie, I could be better. It's been a month since I've seen quality 49er football, so I'm kind of, I guess you could say, in a grumpy mood. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of waiting. Bye weeks tend to make me annoyed because by the time you get to the end of it, it's like, all right, just get the damn show on the road. And then you add in the 3-game losing streak before it. Yeah, I'm kind of sitting here like, I want to see what team I have, damn it.
Join me then, because I'm actually a little crankier than normal, which I know is hard to believe, but I am, and it's because of this Steve Wilks thing. So we're going to get into the Steve Wilks moving to the sideline. We'll get into a little Jags preview. Plus, Levin has a bone to pick with me about Brandon Ayuk. But before we start, I want to remind everybody, please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel and rate, review, and follow the Gold Standard Network podcast. If you leave a review, we will read it on the show, and they really, really help us. So please do. This one comes from Alex from Cali. 5 stars. Great shows. I've been listening for a while now, and I have to say all the shows are awesome. I'm not sure what the 49ers are doing now with Wilks' defense, but Niners Nation is doing well with stats. I'm here throughout all the ups and downs. Hopefully the Niners turn it around. I'm tired of having bad Sundays. I'm having a bad show right now. Look at this comment from Bosser95, YouTube channel member. The best co-host is back. You are awesome, Levin.
I mean, shout out to this one from Tony Bianco. Levin is him.
Yeah, well, I'm less concerned with that one because Bosser95 is a YouTube channel member. Shout out to all the YouTube channel members. If you want to become one, it's less than $3 a month. You get custom emojis, membership badges, and priority comment response. Tony, you're about to get banned, Tony, for comments like Levin.
Don't worry, I can unban you. I have permissions.
Okay, buddy says, does Levin have his own channel? No, thank God the world is saved from more of Levin.
Yeah, I've thought about it, but I pretty much don't have the time. If I had more time, either I'd work out an agreement with you where I put it all on here and there's a revenue share on them, or I'd just start my own thing. But to date, no.
As we wait for that, let's get into some of the things going on with the 49ers.
What would you do without me?
I don't know. Smile more. Scott. I like this comment. The Steve Wilks thing proves he was a bad hire. If you've been living under a rock and you don't know, Kyle Shanahan said yesterday that he is moving. Well, he didn't expressly say he's moving, but all indications appear that he has told Steve Wilks, get out of the booth and get on the sideline. I'll give my thoughts in a minute, Levin, but I want to give you a chance to speak. What is your reaction to this development?
The rest of the team wants input. I think that's what this move is all about. They want, and I mean they as in Kyle Shanahan, and I think to a larger degree players, the leaders of that defense want to be able to, in the moment, during the game, sit on the sideline, talk to their defensive coordinator, say, this is what we're seeing, this is what's happening, what about making these adjustments, what about doing this, what about blitzing from this spot, or just, you make adjustments. You don't have to make huge adjustments. Yeah, they're not going to be able to change the entire game plan until halftime, but you can make small adjustments. And I think it's really hard for the players to be able to do that and give him their feedback throughout the game that, hey, this is what we're seeing. And I think there was a lot of feedback probably from the Warners and the Bosa saying, we need him down on the sideline so that we can talk to him and give him our input from what we're seeing from the player perspective so that he can then utilize that to make the correct adjustments. And that's the problem, is that we're not adjusting to our opponent until halftime. And then out of halftime, if they're not the correct adjustments or the other team made adjustments back, we're not able to then make the correct adjustments for the fourth quarter or at the end of the game, all of that. That's what I take it as, is that the players, as well as Shanahan to a degree, want to be able to talk to Wilks during the game. And you can't really do that through the headset because there's too many people on headsets. There's too much going on to be, it's just like talking on the phone. How long does it take you to have a conversation on the phone to get a point across compared to in person? In person, it's a lot quicker.
The exact same amount of time. What are you
No, it's not.
You're commuting, you're getting your message by voice. What's the difference whether you're holding a phone?
Are you kidding? When you can see the person, there's nonverbal cues. There's things where you can cut the person off quicker, that you can't do that on the phone. Hey, I get that point. Let's move on. Let's go to this because you're running out of time. Phone conversations are not nearly as valuable as in-person conversations. And that's just a statistical fact that every psychologist tells you.
What statistics are you citing?
Do you want me to email you statistics? Yes. Verbal communication in person is a heck of a lot more valuable and happens faster than when you do it through technology.
I think that it's this idea that somehow that they couldn't communicate. Like, okay, so a player comes off the field and he wants to say X to Steve Wilks. He can either call up to the booth, which they've had phones.
How do they call up to the booth? Get out of here. They don't have a phone sitting there on the sideline. Yeah, players are going to be sitting there. He's going to have, 5 phone calls from all his players? Hey, this is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm seeing. No, you can't have the same group conversation where you talk through the crap as a team and come to some kind of clear conclusion of what to do in the future. That's nonsense.
That's so
nonsense that you can sit on the sideline and talk on the phone to make adjustments.
Of course you can. They've been doing it.
Nobody does it. Literally nobody is capable of doing that. That is not something you can do in the heat of battle when you're sitting on the sidelines with the crowd noise and everything else going on behind you. You cannot do that.
Do it. How do they do it in Dallas then? Do they have a good defense? He's up in the booth. It's absurd to me that we think that somehow it's impossible to get the message through because they're not both on the field. And you think that Steve Wilks, who's comfortable in the booth, is going to go down to the sideline, have 50 people yelling at him? You think that's going to help the communication?
Well, no, I don't think Wilks is going to do overly well on the sideline. That's just not who he is, which I think gets back to the original comment that you threw up. He was a bad hire. He did not fit this team. He might be smart and know what he's talking about, but in terms of culture fit, he is clearly 100% that's already out the door. Culture fit, he was not the right guy.
So, well, that's the thing, right? Think about it. We're Steve Wilks. We want you to come in, but we don't want you to run your scheme. Okay. So we want you to run somebody else's scheme. And now we don't even want you to run that scheme where you're comfortable, right? Now we want you to run it on the sideline. It's like, what did you hire Steve Wilks to do then? Like, basically, he's doing an imitation of D'Amico Ryans and Robert Saleh.
I don't think he's going to be doing that, but I do think 100% that the players gave feedback to Shanahan, and Shanahan was feeling it himself, that they want to be able to talk to Wilks in the moment and have the team atmosphere where they huddle together on the sideline to make adjustments.
Chad Marshall says, Levin, Rob has a snippet in the Grant show where he says, I can't get it up right now. It's not working. Someone has to grab that for the collection. That's true. I was trying to get a website.
The first time that's happened to you, huh?
Sure. I was trying to get a website up and it did not work. So you know what? Terrible job by me. Also, I missed this from Sway. Have you seen the GTA 6 trailer early next month? Well, if the trailer comes out early next month, how would I have seen it?
Well, there was a whole bunch of the GTA people were supposed to release the trailer earlier. It didn't end up happening. So then everybody's like, oh, the game's in trouble. They're not going to do it. They announced, yes, the game will be coming out. I can't remember the date, but they said this is when the trailer is going to drop, and this is when we expect the game to be dropped.
Oh, well, see, there you go, Sway. There's your info. We cover all things here on the Gold Standard Network. Let's get back to yelling at each other. Emmanuel says, I understand the move of Wilks going to the sideline, but I'm not sure how to feel about it. He's already out of his comfort zone.
Yeah.
I don't like what's going on with Steve Wilks, Levin. I feel like he is being scapegoated. We've had 8 games, and already Wilks has been made to publicly apologize for a blitz call that he made, and now they're kicking him out of the booth where he's comfortable and forcing him to go on the sideline. That's dicey, man.
2 things. One, that's kind of how I feel this comment, that I understand why they're doing it, but at the same time, I'm not sure how to feel about it because it's not what he's used to. It's not his comfort zone. I don't know that it's actually going to improve things. But in terms of him being scapegoated, who made the play call? Who made the dumbest possible play call in the moment that cost him a touchdown and probably cost him that game? Wilks. He's the only one. It's not scapegoating somebody when that person did something that's incredibly freaking stupid. Just like Tart dropping the interception. Did it lose them the game? You can argue that. But do you blame him for dropping the interception? Absolutely. You're a professional. Catch the damn ball when it's given to you. You know what I mean? Yeah, he is to blame for that play call, and that play call was huge. That might be the biggest single play of the season at this point because it set the tone for those games that have been happening. In terms of Is everything his fault? No, not everything's his fault. The player's not tackling. That's not on Wilks. That's on the players. Fred Warner, that's got to be on the players 100%, the tackling. But I said this a couple of weeks ago. When you have something that is working super, super well and you change one thing and suddenly that thing is broken, you blame the thing that you changed. And that's Wilks in this scenario.
I think that the reason that call in the Vikings game was so important is because the 49ers only scored 17 points. That's why to just blame Wilks and make him have to issue a statement after that game, like he committed a crime, like he was a politician addressing some sort of scandal. I just thought it was really terrible. No one is suggesting that Kyle Shanahan has to go to the booth because the offense has only scored 17 points the last 3 weeks. Like, I feel like Wilks is getting a lot of blame when in reality, they're not as bad as people think, Levin. They are not. They are 4th in the league in points per game allowed. No team in the NFC gives up fewer points per game than Steve Wilks' 49ers defense.
They're 24th in the last 3 weeks in points per game.
Oh, okay. I'm glad you bring that up. I did some research today, Levin. Would it blow your doors off to know that going back to 2019, the 49ers have had a 3-game stretch that's worse than this in every single season that they were good? And maybe in 2020, I don't know. I didn't look in 2020 since they sucked. In 2019, they allowed 26 points per game between weeks 9 and weeks 11.
Yeah, that's the Kansas City game.
In 2021, they allowed 25 points per game for the first 8 games of the season. That's more than they've given up the last 3 weeks. And in 2022, they allowed 26 points a game between weeks 6, 7, and 8. So maybe this isn't, oh my God, Steve Wilks is a huge disaster. It's worse than it's ever been. We're flailing. We're out of control. And maybe it's just literally something that happens to this defense every single year.
So let's set the record straight, because to me, so far, you're kind of on both sides. Is there something wrong with Wilks? Is there a culture fit issue? Is he doing a great job or not?
He's not doing as bad a job as people are saying he's doing. There are things that can be improved. Absolutely. The tackling is definitely one of them. The sacks is definitely one of them. Like, I'm not saying there are no problems with the defense. I'm saying that the problems aren't nearly as big as everybody thinks. And this dog and pony show of moving him from the booth to the field, to me, is putting way too much blame on him. And it doesn't fix anything on its own. It just doesn't.
But it might be what's needed to happen to fix the things. I really do think the players and Shanahan not being able to have input throughout the game because it's too hard. Like, when can Kyle talk to Wilks?
Whenever he wants. Whenever he wants.
No, he can't. There's too many players that have headsets on that are going to be hearing what they're talking about. You can't have the same conversations when there's players that are being able to listen. You can't. That's just simple.
The players aren't on the headsets. The coaches are on the headsets.
Some players do get to hear what's going on, yeah.
It's
turned off for different points. It's not at all times.
You think that Kyle Shanahan can't talk to Steve Wilks, his defensive coordinator, whenever he wants on the headset?
Not alone, between the two of them, to have an honest conversation.
I would almost guarantee that he can. And even if he can't, who cares who's listening? Handle your business. I think that this sideline thing is way overblown. How is Steve Wilks being on the sideline going to improve their tackling, which they've missed 32 tackles in the last 3 weeks?
It doesn't. That's 100% on the players.
How is it going to improve the fact that over the last 3 weeks, they have a negative turnover differential? It's not going to affect that either. Those are the things that matter. Those are the things that are the real problems on this defense. And it doesn't have anything to do with the physical location of Steve Wilks.
I mean, it's Shanahan has flat said it, that the coverage was not matching the rest of the defense. That's something that can be solved when they huddle together. Hey, because we're running this other part of the defense isn't working. Can we change these things to get them to be working more cohesively? It's also the fact that Wilks doesn't, he's using somebody else's defensive line scheme, the wide 9. Mm-hmm. I think him being on the sideline helps him connect the dots better about matching things up. When you have, Forrester down on the sidelines. I got that wrong, didn't I? I'm drawing a blank.
Wilks?
No, the defensive line.
Kosaric.
Thank you. When you got Kasarik down on the sideline and you got Wilks up there who runs the secondary, it's hard for them to make adjustments on the fly. If Wilks makes an adjustment to the secondary, it might not match up what is happening with the defensive line and what they're running. I think Wilks isn't the best at figuring that out and how to get those things to work together. And him being down on the sideline, I would hope improves that. Maybe it's not fixable. That is a problem here. It might not get fixed by him being on the sideline. There might not be any change. Or because he's down on the sideline, something else is worse for him. Like he doesn't have the bird's eye view anymore. You've actually attended an NFL game, so now you understand that. But you know what I mean? Like him not having that bird's eye view, he might not be able to see things as he's used to and know what to do as a defensive coordinator. Now he's down on the sideline. Sidelines is the worst possible angle to watch the game from.
Right. That's why the coaches are up high. I think the adjustments you're talking about get made during the week. Do some adjustments get made during the game? Yes. But I think all of those adjustments can be made with a guy in the booth. Again, there are teams that do it really well with their defensive coordinator in the booth. Dan Quinn in Dallas being a perfect example. Vic Fangio, the guy everybody wanted to be the Niners defensive coordinator, up in the booth. It's not like Wilks has experience with linebackers or defensive linemen, right? So he's not going to be able to offer coaching tips on the sideline to those guys. The position he can offer coaching tips to is the secondary, and the best place to view the secondary is from up above.
Yeah, you're not wrong. It might not work, but I do think that the players wanted input. They wanted to be able to talk to their defensive coordinator and be like, hey, this is what we're seeing. Because that does happen. Like, I know Rich Madrid he threw out a post saying it's hilarious to me that fans think they actually make adjustments on the fly. It's like, they do. Do they make whole scale scheme adjustments? No, but they absolutely make adjustments on the fly throughout a game.
Yeah, I think, they do make some, absolutely. I just want to take issue with another thing too, because people have been disagreeing with me on Twitter constantly since I tweeted my skepticism about the move yesterday. And there's a lot of people saying, oh, well, it's obvious. Look at him. You never played the game. You never strapped on shoulder pads and a helmet. You don't know what you're talking about. Fair enough. I'm 140 pounds soaking wet. Yes, I never played professional football. But you know who did? Steve Young. He was on KMBR last week. He talked about this. Listen to Steve Young talk about the idea of moving Steve Wilks from the booth to the sideline.
That's a problem you used to think about in March. Oh, we need a defensive coordinator. We need him to come out of the booth. Save that one for March. We're looking for solutions, and that's not part of the solution. Those are kind of things that are static. The only reason he'd do that is because we screamed about it, and I don't know that we want that to be the reason why he comes down.
Quick question, Levin. Did Steve Young ever play in the NFL? Did he ever strap on shoulder pads and put on a helmet? I can't remember. Did he? Did he play?
I'm going to value what's on this team currently. Like Steve Young, yeah, he has great insight. He played, but he's not on this team. Clearly, this team and Kyle Shanahan thinks it's a big deal. Should Kyle have negotiated that while negotiating with Wilks? 100%. It should have been, hey, we want to hire you, but we have this one stipulation. You need to be on the sideline. And if Wilks said no, so be it. Now they're forcing him in the middle. It might not go well, right? But clearly the team, this locker room, values the defensive coordinator being on the sideline, and that's why he's coming down.
I think it's desperate. I think it looks like we are flailing. We don't know how to fix it. And
we are. That's the whole thing. Yes, we are flailing. We have gotten worse and worse. Things aren't working. Our pass rush can't get home. Our secondary can't cover anybody for more than 2 seconds. Nothing's working. Our linebackers are missing tackles left and right. They're not filling the correct holes. This team is getting run on for the first time in a decade over and over. They can't stop the run. All those things. This defense is flailing. Are they horrendous? No. Are they about as bad as they can be when they have this much talent? I would say yes. This is a defense that's so crazy talented that being in the bottom of the top 10 is terrible for them. That is horrendous results.
They're 7th in yards. 7th. And they're 4th
because of the first 5 games.
Well, the first 5 games count. then the
Yeah,
defense is
but
good.
recency matters. How are they playing right now? When you get to the playoffs and a team comes out and plays like crap, and they played like crap the final 3 weeks of the season, do you sit and go, well, hey, they were really good those first 14 games, so they were a really good team? Or do you talk about, hey, yeah, they fell off. They peaked too early. Their last 4 games, they were trash. Things got figured out. This defense has been terrible. I think I can't remember the exact number. I want to say that it was 27th in yards in the last 3 games in the NFL. They are getting worse and worse. They're failing at things that they've never failed at before. So they are reeling. They are in trouble. They do need to make changes. They should be desperate.
I think it's way overblown. There's a stat from Nick Wagner. Over the last 3 games, they are 24th in points per game allowed. They are 30th in yards. They are 31st in defensive EPA, and they are tied for 13th in takeaways. Sorry, that's a little small. But I just think that people, again, as I pointed out earlier, this has happened to every 49er defense since they've been good starting in 2019. It happened under D'Amico Ryans. It happened under Robert Saleh. Nobody moved them up to the booth. There wasn't this kind of reaction like we have to fire this guy. I think we're just sort of losing perspective a little bit. I'm
going to call you on it because you're kind of talking out of 2 sides of BS. We have talked about on this show and together many times that this team's philosophy of, well, we always go on a run at the end of the year, so it's not that big of a deal what happens in the beginning, is BS, because what happened in the past, you can't guarantee. Eventually, you're not going to be able to make that crazy run and be this dominant team at the end of the season. Mm-hmm. So this defense, you're not doing well. You can't just go, well, this defense has always had a stretch like this every year, so it's not a big deal. They'll get it turned around. Well, the problem is right now they're not playing well, so there's no guarantee they make the right adjustments.
I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm saying there are things to be fixed. Steve Wilks going to the sideline isn't what fixes those things. That's my issue. Chris Maldonado says the good thing is we find out Sunday, 11 Colorado time, if there's a difference, even a little difference with Wilks in the sideline. I know it might take some time. Well, this is my other issue with it, Levin. Let's say the Niners go out against the Jags and give up like 17 points, right? People are going to be like, see, it worked, because this is the change they can see, right? They don't see the adjustment like, is Wilks playing more man on 3rd and long, or did he switch from cover 2 to cover 3 in this situation, or is he playing Talanoa Hufanga on the strong side instead of the weak side? Like, this is the most obvious change, so people are going to point to it and say, see, it definitely worked, when not realizing there could be multiple other adjustments that the 49ers made over the bye week.
Oh, it's a good thing people like us are around to talk about it, huh?
Well, you need people smarter than me.
Because if we just went off what I'm generalizing, the fan base as a whole talks about, the fan base is so large, it's just like the general population when you're talking about an election. They end up talking about nothing important because the average doesn't know enough to talk about the more detailed stuff. They talk about generalities, stereotypes, things like that. And so that's why we don't do that. That's why people like us exist. That's why people tune in. That's why people are watching right now.
Well, and also I think we don't pretend to be something we're not. Like, we're not defensive scheme experts. We're not film experts. You know, I think that's fair. I don't think we pretend to be that. And I think people respect that. Antonio says 8th in points per drive, 10th in EPA per play, 4th in points per game. Didn't know there was an issue. There are issues. Clearly, the tackling is definitely an issue for sure. I think just the general overall intensity is an issue for sure. But I don't think just moving Steve Wilks to the sideline fixes those. I think the things that actually fix those are independent of where Steve Wilks calls the game from. And I think it's probably like, if I were him, I'd be annoyed with what's going on. How would you feel?
I mean, it is what it is. I think it's clear Shanahan told him, come down on the sideline or else.
Yeah, I think this was not a voluntary thing.
No. Wilks has answered questions about it in this season about how he doesn't think anything is benefited by him coming to the sideline. So clearly it was not his choice. It's very clear his boss said, no, you're doing this whether you like it or not.
Steve Wilks has a media session today. That's going to be fun. I would love it if he got up there and was like, look, we're fourth in points per game. We're 7 in yards. Get off my ass. Like I would respect him a little bit if he said that. He's not going to say that. And I also don't think he's going to be, Mr. Rah-Rah on the sidelines because that's not who he is. That's not his personality. And if he tries to do that, I think it's going to backfire. Yeah. I don't think it's going to work.
He is Nick Bosa who coaches in terms of demeanor.
Right.
There's nothing there.
Hey guys. Yeah. Oh man, we missed the tackle. Chris Maldonado says, what have the players said about the move? I don't think they said anything yesterday. No. I'm sure they'll get asked about it again, so we'll find out. I don't know. I think that the defense is getting way too much of the focus. I think the defense has played well enough the last 3 weeks that they could have won all those games if the offense didn't completely pee down their leg, especially in critical spots.
I mean, we can take it a different angle. We can talk about how Kyle Shanahan forcing him down to the sideline tells you that he feels like this slide of the last 3 games is different than ever before, and he's actually desperate this time around. Dick. Whereas before, he never had. I think that's a legitimate conversation to be had, that Kyle Shanahan can feel that something is different about this, and the team has lost its fire for the first time in years, and he wants to try to refocus them by stirring things up, and that he really, truly is desperate because he knows the players. He can sense there has been a demeanor change, and he needs to get them back to being this cocky team because they have been cocky.
Waltony 101, part of the Twitch army. Appreciate everybody. Says, hopefully Steve Wilks does the media session from a booth. That would be hysterical, and I love that. But like what you just said, right? Oh, we got to get the team back to where it was. It's almost like this team really only has one way that they can win, right? They need to get up early. They need to force the other team to be one-dimensional. And now apparently they need a coach on the sideline. Like, damn, man, football is about overcoming adversity and triumphing when the situation is not ideal, when it's not the perfect thing for you. And it doesn't seem like this 49ers team can do it.
No, I think there's a legitimate conversation to be had about how prima donna this 49ers team is. You can make a pretty solid argument about this team as a bunch of babies. That if they don't get their exact way, they crumble and they throw a temper tantrum. And look, I think there's a little bit of truth to that. I wouldn't go as far as what I just said, but I think there's a little bit of truth to that. That this team is the schoolyard bully that when they actually get punched in the face, somebody lands a punch, they crumble and they disappear.
You're right. Let me ask you this question. This came up with Grant, and I thought it was really good. Let's say the 49ers win on Sunday. Would you rather see a victory similar to the Dallas game where they get up early and just pour it on and dominate? Or would you rather see a back and forth game and the Niners pull it out at the end?
My reaction to that is I don't give a fuck.
I know, but you know what I'm asking.
I know what you're asking, and I don't care. Just win. There's pluses and minuses to both of those things. If they go out and they dominate a team that is currently 6-2 on the road on an East Coast game, that's a massive confidence boost, and they're probably going to get their groove back, get their mojo back, as I've been saying. If they go out and win a tough game, then you know what the positive is. That's why you're asking it. Hey, they finally proved they can win the grimy game. Right? There's pluses and minuses to both of those. I don't care as long as they win. If they lose, then all right, the guys that have been here quite a while and they're aging, start packing your shit because you're probably going elsewhere because it's time to flip the script. It's not going to be bring back the same cast because it's clear that cast peaked.
Well, not only that, but think about how differently you feel about this team versus a win or a loss this week, right? If they win 6-3, stop the losing streak, you're playing Tampa Bay next week, you feel pretty good, right? You're like, all right, we've righted this ship a little bit. If they lose, oh my God, they're 5-4. It's a 4-game losing streak. They're in free fall. Their defense doesn't know what to do to fix anything. Just the way we're going to feel about this team on Monday, the 13th, is so different based on the outcome of this one game.
You want to know something funny? I caught myself thinking this on Sunday. I was watching the Bills game, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Bills ended up losing yet another close game. They fell to 5-4. But I found myself thinking towards the end of that game when they had a chance to try to go win the game, I literally had the thought, and it stopped me, and I was like, why don't I think that about my own team? And my thought was, well, even if they don't get it done in this, that's still not a team I want to play in the playoffs. They're going to make the playoffs, even if they fall to 5-4, and that's not a team I would want to play, and that would be a team that I would consider one of the best teams and possible Super Bowl winners. Even if they enter the playoffs at 10-7, I would think that, because the potential is there with the Bills. You've seen it. But I don't think along the same lines exactly with the Niners. If they fall and they end up only being 10-7 and squeaking in the playoffs, I'm going to say these guys are frauds. There's no way they're making a run and winning the Super Bowl.
See, I think that's because we all like set our sights and had this expectation of winning the number 1 seed, right? And if they fall short of that, you feel like they failed in a way, but they really haven't, right? Just get into the playoffs and take your best shot, every single week. Who knows what can happen? But I don't think that's the feel, because the 49ers have talked about getting the number 1 seed. Kyle Shanahan has talked about the importance of how nice it would be to get that bye. They've all talked about getting back. We got to get back to the NFC Championship game. We got to live up to this standard, this ideal of last year and the previous years, instead of just like living in the moment. Live in this year. Forget the other years. You've got to succeed now. And I don't like that mindset. And maybe it won't shift until they lose again.
I took it a different way. What I came up with, the reason I feel that way about Buffalo, and I don't mean this as a slight on Purdy. He's had no chance to prove it. But Josh Allen is one of those truly special quarterbacks. And the reason why I still wouldn't want to play them is because if Josh Allen is on, good freaking luck. He's one of those quarterbacks that it doesn't matter what's going on with the team. It doesn't matter how many holes, how many things, whether the defense is getting torched. He could go out and throw for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns, and none of the other stuff mattered. They still won. That's why I feel like it's still I wouldn't want to play that team in the playoffs, because they have one of the truly elite quarterbacks that you just don't want to face.
So somebody earlier asked, what have the players said about Wilks switching? There's an article from NBC Sports Bay Area with comments from Eric Armstead. He said, I think in the past, me personally, and I've seen other people communicating with Saleh and D'Amico, Armstead said, that has been helpful at times. Let's see. Wilks has a history of coaching the secondary. Armstead understands why Wilks might have wanted an overview of the field. I know Coach Wilks comes from the back end defensive backs, and I'm sure it's great for him to be able to see the full picture on the back end, coverage wise, and stuff like that. See, that's what I mean. Like, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be nearly as helpful as people think. I hope it helps. I'd love to see them pitch a shutout on Sunday. That would be great, but I don't think it will.
I don't know if it's going to help, but I do feel like the thought process for Shanahan here was, my players are unhappy. They feel like there's a disconnect with their defensive coordinator. He needs to come down so that they can regroup and get on the same page. And if it doesn't work, we were screwed anyways.
Yeah, it feels to me like there's always something they point to sort of avoid responsibility, right? Well, in the NFC Championship game, we lost all our quarterbacks, right? Okay. Well, in the Browns game, if Jake Moody just makes that kick, we did fine. We're okay. If he makes that kick, we win. Well, in the Vikings game, if we don't call that blitz call, we're good. We would have won. Like, no. Own up and admit you have to be better. Now we're on, well, if Steve Wilks was just on the sideline, then we'd be fine. Like, what's the excuse going to be if they lose this week and Wilks is on the sideline? When is it their fault? When do they just have to say, we suck and we need to get better?
I want to throw this up because I think this is a good comment here. M. Patel says, too many nice guys, need some a-holes on this team. Who is the Ray Lewis or Richard Sherman that won't tolerate substandard play? And I think that ties into what you were just saying. It's a good point that I hadn't thought of. Have we seen a single instance this season of somebody on the defense tearing into the guys and yelling at them, we got to be better, or anything like that? Have we seen the defense huddle together where one of the guys is just tearing into them and ripping them a new one, saying we got to be better? I haven't seen it.
I don't.
They don't always catch it with the cameras.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen a single instance of it. Normally, even if the TV cameras don't pick it up, one of the media members will pick it up from the booth and talk about, hey, the team, they might not have video of it, but they'll talk about it. I haven't seen anything along those lines that Yeah, Fred Warner just tore into him, or Dre Greenlaw tore into him, or Armstead, or whoever. And maybe this team is missing that vocal leader, and it used to be the defensive coordinators, right? Saleh and D'Amico were both that type of person, and thus nobody on this defense has developed into that as a player because they've always had the coach there as the crutch to do it.
The coach or Jimmy Ward, right? Jimmy Ward,
And I guess Jimmy Ward, yeah,
would have done it, or Richard Sherman absolutely would have done it. Mint Diggity says, if I feel like these babies are just upset because their coach isn't a cheerleader, just tackle and make plays. I think it's much more on the players than on the coaches. And I also think the offense has to be better. Who's the guy on the offense that's been tearing into them for only scoring 17 points? Like, where's that person, right? The 17 points per game with all the all-pros they have and Kyle Shanahan, that's not good enough. That is flat out unacceptable. If you want to say the defense needs to be better, fine. But you better have that same energy for the offense.
Yeah, somebody needs to tell that offensive line to, for lack of a better way, be a man and actually push somebody rather than getting pushed yourself, because that offensive line has gotten work, and it's not all Trent Williams. That existed before Trent Williams went down.
Mm-hmm.
They were struggling to run the ball while Trent Williams was still healthy. That offensive line is getting their butts handed to them every week, and rather than being angry about it, they're going, "Aw, shucks."
It's bad. They haven't been able to run the ball at all. And I don't know if they're going to be able to run the ball this week, Levin. For the crossover this week, I talked with Mike Dempsey, who's a co-host on the Jaguars radio network on their game day show. And I said, look, the Niners want to run the ball. And his response was basically, great. We'll take that all day. Like, that is not the soft spot of this Jaguars defense. So the Niners are going to need to have a backup plan. Okay, we can't run the ball. Fortunately, Debo looks like he's going to be back. I think Kyle's backup plan will probably be like quick slants and screen passes to Debo, which is a pretty good backup plan. But I feel like this might not be the week where the running game gets healthy.
Right. So we can transition into talking more about Jacksonville. He's not wrong that the strength of this defense is their rush defense. They're fourth in the league in average yards per rush. It's only 3.6 yards. I think they're better than the Niners in terms of giving up the run. So this is not a game that they're likely, unless there's one play that skews it because McCaffrey breaks a 40-yard run, they're not going to consistently be able to run the ball. They're going to have to win passing. And there are some interesting things there. You know, you talked about Debo. The short game is the weakness of this Jacksonville defense. They've given up the most receptions to running backs in the league. They're giving up 7.5 receptions per game to running backs. This is the This is the screen game. Go to screens from McCaffrey. This is the get McCaffrey out into the flat, give him the ball in space, even if, treat it like a run play, right? Just get him a soft thing in the flat, give him 3, 4, 5 yards because you're not going to be able to run the ball consistently. So I do think this is going to be a game that's going to be a lot of that. And Debo will be involved in that because Debo's a hybrid player. He's not a true wide receiver.
I hope that they use McCaffrey then. Just pepper him, man. Use him as a receiver primarily and let Jordan Mason and Elijah Mitchell run the ball. That you can do that too, Like, you don't have to give Christian McCaffrey 20 carries every game. Press him until it hurts on the weak spots. I would be absolutely fine with that. And Brock. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I talked about it after the last game. McCaffrey, I feel like Shanahan fell in love with McCaffrey's route running, and that's great because he is a really good route runner. But I talked about how he hasn't been there as just the dump off, the safety net for Purdy. It seems like there aren't any of those because McCaffrey's out running a true route. He's 10, 15, 20 yards down the field. He's all the way over on the sideline because he ran an out route. He's not just coming out like we saw last year when Purdy was, a completely unknown. We saw McCaffrey was just coming and sitting 3 or 4 yards downfield in the middle of the field there as a safety net for Purdy to use if nothing else was there. We haven't seen that, and I'd like to see that come back. Yes, McCaffrey every once in a while should run a true route, but don't fall in love with his route running. Keep a safety net there for Purdy so that he's not forcing things deeper. I actually saw some graphs today that Purdy is way towards the bottom. I think there were only 4 quarterbacks worse in terms of average time to throw, yet he was third in average depth of target, highest, meaning. So he has almost no time to throw, yet he's throwing deep at a rate super high. So that tells me that he's going deep too much, right? If he doesn't have time to throw, yet he's throwing deep a lot, I feel like he's probably forcing some of these deeper passes.
One of the things that I noticed, I watched JT O'Sullivan's Purdy breakdown, and he pointed out multiple times how the Bengals defensive players were basically crashing on McCaffrey. Anytime he came out of the backfield, they were basically just diving on, like almost cheating towards him. Like, yeah, they were kind of doing their responsibility, but more they were ready to trigger and pounce on any sort of dump off to McCaffrey because they didn't respect Jawan Jennings in the slot or, whatever their other primary coverage responsibility was.
And you know what a top offense like the Chiefs would do with that? They would take the tight end for them, Kelsey, because they don't have a wide receiver, but they would take a player and they would use that against the defense. They would have McCaffrey go out to a specific spot and then have the other guy, the actual primary target of the play, go right into that spot that the linebacker is abandoning and take the easy give me in a zone. And it's not a play that's predetermined exactly where that player is going to end up. It takes the quarterback and the receiver to be on the same page and see when that linebacker vacates. They do that all the time with Kelsey. Kelsey goes out. He has, a route that he's supposed to run, but really what he's doing is he's watching the zone and he's waiting to find out, okay, this is the spot in the zone that's going to be soft. And he sits in that spot and then Mahomes hits him. Like, I would like to see that. If they're going to be super aggressive going against McCaffrey or Debo, use it against them. Don't have a predetermined route where nobody goes in and takes that vacated spot that the defense is cheating from.
And if nothing else, if they don't fix the defensive issues, if they don't fix the tackling, if they don't fix anything else, if they just fix the turnovers, they're going to be in a position to win this game at the end. If they do nothing else but protect the football and don't turn it over, they're going to be right there. Brock, I got to have a big old 0 in the turnover column for you this week. No picks, no fumbles, no stupid plays, okay? You have to fix that. I know you're going to have growing pains. You can have growing pains without turning the football over. Those two things are possible too. Learn when the play is over, learn when to live for another down, and protect the damn ball.
Here, I'll give you an easy trivia question.
Ooh, okay.
What team leads the league in turnovers per game? Forced.
Jacksonville?
Yeah. They're forcing 1.8 turnovers per game, first in the NFL. So good luck.
I am so smart. 187 says CMC, no fumbles, please. Yeah, that too. Like everybody. If somebody puts the ball on the turf, oh man, like you will run a mile,
if
right?
There's another red zone turnover. Whoever turns it over can sit their butt on the bench.
Unless it's McCaffrey, in which case just don't do it again, Christian. But yeah, though,
that's if Christian McCaffrey does it 3 games in a row, he can sit his butt on the bench for a while.
They have to get it under control. They have to, especially in the fourth quarter if it's close. Like Brock, man. Like in that Cincinnati game, the defense gave the 49ers a chance to win. They didn't play their best game, but they gave them a chance to win. And Brock Purdy threw interceptions on back-to-back passes in that game. Like they were there. As much as we've been talking about the defense and ripping them, just have the same energy for the offense. They have to be better. They have to. Can't take a quarter and a half or 2 quarters to get going either. Come out of the gate, go down the field. If I were Kyle Shanahan, I would take the ball first. Give me the ball first. We're going out. We're going to go right down the field. We're going to stuff it down your throat. We're going to go up immediately, and we're going to set the tone for this game right out of the gate.
I do think that the reason why the offense has not gotten the same criticism, they haven't gotten the points, but and take this with a grain of salt because I know how you're going to react. They've still moved the ball at an elite rate. They're still getting a bunch of yards. They've turned the ball over, and they've just come up barely short of getting points many times, but they're still consistently moving the ball and being able to be a quality offense. It hasn't resulted in points, so take it with a grain of salt. Whereas the defense, they've gotten bullied. And that's why everybody's like, what the heck is happening? This defense has so much talent, and we're not seeing them be able to stop anybody. They're getting their butts whooped. They're missing tackles. They're getting shoved out of the way, and the other team's being able to run on them at will. We've never seen that from this team, and I think there is a difference. When an offense is moving the ball but not resulting in points, you go, right, but they're still moving the ball, so it's not all bad. When a defense just can't stop anybody from running the ball and they're getting shoved around, your reaction to that is, wow, this defense just doesn't have it.
See, I think you could say the same thing about the defense, only in the inverse, right? Yeah, they're getting shoved around. Teams are moving the ball on them, but they're not giving up a ton of points per game, which they're not. Again, fourth fewest in the entire NFL. They've only had one game where they've given up 30 points. So I think you could say that same premise to the defense.
I mean, you're not wrong.
No. The phrase you're searching for is right. You are correct. You are right, Rob. You could say it. They know.
But there's the same difference that I was just talking about still exists in that. Do you feel great about a team that is giving up all sorts of yards and allowing the other team to move the ball methodically down the field, convert third down after third down, but then they just stop them and limit them to a field goal? Or do you feel better about a team on the other side of the ball that moves the ball constantly, but doesn't quite get the points for whatever reason, right?
I think it's a distinction without a difference.
No, I think there is a difference there. When one team is getting dominated consistently and then just coming up on the last play, you don't feel very good about it. The inverse of the defense would be a team that's not moving the ball at all, but then they have 3 or 4 long touchdowns. So overall, they're scoring 25, 26 points per game, but they're only getting, the ball to move and get a first down on like 20% of their drives. You wouldn't feel very good about that offense. You would be criticizing that offense. Why can't they move consistently? Why can't they stay on the field? That's one of the things we've talked about with the defense. Why can't they get off the field? They allow third down conversion after third down conversion. So I do think that that's a big reason why the narratives are different between these two, even though both sides, results-wise, are about the same in the last 3 weeks in terms of points.
See, that's weird to me. Like, what is comforting that the offense can go down the field but not get points? Like, I'm not any more. That's to me like, well, they're getting pressures, but they're not getting sacks, but they're getting pressures. It's like, okay, well, great, but they're not getting sacks. Oh, the offense is moving the ball down the field, but they're not scoring points. Okay, great, but they're not scoring points. Like, to me, it's the same thing. I don't feel any better about the offense just because they can go between the 20s.
Right.
No.
But what's more likely to improve? When you're talking about the potential of something changing and improving, you feel better and more encouraged about them coming through if they're moving the ball consistently, and 9 times out of 10 they're doing well. It's just that 1 time out of 10 comes at a terrible time, so they're not getting as many points over the team that's failing 9 times out of 10, but that 1 time out of 10 they managed to keep points off the board, right? You feel more encouraged about a team fixing a certain aspect if they're succeeding over and over. They're just not quite coming through right at the end. You feel more encouraged about that.
I understand the point that you're making, but to me, I don't feel that way. I don't agree with your point. Like, I don't feel better about the team, even though they move the ball. And even though, yes, I get your point. They're succeeding over and over again, but not doing the final last part. It's a bottom line business for me. All I care about is how many points do you score and how many points do you give up? If you let every team get down to the 1 yard line and you don't let them score and you pitch a shutout every game, your defense is fantastic, right? Like, I don't know. I see what you're saying. I just want them to score points, and I want them to allow very little points.
I think that's the baby cone in you.
Well, I don't think that's that outrageous, right? Like, I don't give them credit just because the offense can move the ball between the 20s. Like, you should be able to do that. You're loaded with studs. If you can't move the ball between the 20s with this amount of offensive talent, then we got real problems. Don't tell me about the labor pain.
The offense is doing closer to what you expect than the defense is doing.
Okay, but like, the points are what matters more than the yards.
Absolutely.
And so the defense is not allowing very many points, and the offense isn't scoring very many points.
Right. See,
so
I said right this time. You're not wrong. But the offense is a lot closer to scoring a lot of points than the defense is to, I guess they haven't allowed a lot of points, if you want to say that, but they've given up a lot of yards, so there's not a whole lot of concern. You could make the argument that the defense has been lucky to not allow a lot more points, whereas the offense has been unlucky to not score more points.
Aha. Yeah, maybe. That might be fair.
That's where I fall. Like, the offense is really close to scoring a lot more points, whereas the defense is not close to allowing less points. They're close to allowing more points.
If you want to say the offense is closer to fixing their problems than the defense, okay. You begrudgingly brought me over. I still don't feel good about either one. I still really don't feel good about either one. The other thing is, how is Wilks going to play the coverages? Because Trevor Lawrence destroys zone coverage, at least this year. He's been very, very good against it. Nick Wagner had a tweet that I'm going to throw on the screen if you're watching on YouTube. Trevor Lawrence is first in QBR and second in completion percentage and fourth in EPA on passes against the zone. Against man, he's 24th in QBR, 22nd in completion percentage, and 21st in EPA on passes. So is Wilks, people keep saying Wilks has got to play more zone, but is that really the path to victory this week against the Jags? I don't know. Doesn't seem like it.
How about Mooney Ward and Lenore play man, and Oliver, you just give him a simple zone. Hey, just stand in this spot and stop anything from that spot. Because really, the defense's issues would be almost completely fixed. Yeah, there's still been some issues. Mooney Ward hasn't been as great as you would hope. But overall, this defense would be really good if Isaiah Oliver wasn't such a crappy player. He is horrible. He is literally the worst cornerback in the league this year. He's giving up almost 90% pass completion. He's giving up, I think it's like 7 receptions a game or something like that. If you just had the slot playing average football, this defense would not be a topic of conversation.
Yeah, you're not wrong about that. If you just got league average play anytime they run a slot fade, it works. And it's been a problem with him. It's been a problem with K'Wan Williams. They have not been able to solidify that slot position. Now, maybe Darrell Luter can eventually come back, or maybe Samuel Womack can come back and they'll move Lenore into the slot or whatever. But none of that's happening on Sunday. On Sunday, it's going to be Isaiah Oliver. He is going to be out there. And you have to, you can't have such a huge liability. Any third down, I feel like they're just going to say, all right, where's 26? Okay, there he is. Let's go. Like, if the pass rush is not getting there, that's going to be available to them all day long.
And who does Jacksonville have that plays the slot a lot?
Is it Chark?
No. Kirk?
Ridley? Kirk? Sorry, yeah.
Kirk is one of the most efficient players in the slot the last 2 years. In terms of routes run in the slot and production, I think he's second in the NFL. In terms of average yards gained per route run out of the slot. He is a really, really good slot player. And that's my concern in this game. Because the offense for Jacksonville hasn't been good. No part of the Jackson offense has been good. They're 17th in rushing. They're 17th in passing. Overall, I think they're like 20th in yards per game. Like, it's not that, they've been really good in this aspect and not good in this aspect. No, they've been mediocre to slightly below average in all aspects of the game. I think Trevor Lawrence only has 9 passing touchdowns on the season. Like, they haven't been good.
Yeah, he has not had that sort of step forward that we all thought. Hopefully that continues, by the way. But that, to me, just speaks even more to not turning the football over, right? Don't give them short field. Don't give this mid offense short fields. Force them to have to drive all the way down the field on you over and over and over and over again. So the fastest way to lose is to give a bad offense a short field. So they have to protect the ball, and special teams too. Right.
Jacksonville is the team in the NFL this year that has been saved by turnovers. Because they're forcing so many turnovers, they're 6-2. Their defense is only, and I know there's a lot of 17s. Everything was 17. Their defense is 17th in the NFL in yards allowed per play. And as I just said, their passing offense and their rushing offense are both ranked 17th, respectively. So they're not great at anything except for turnovers. So if you don't turn the ball over, you should win.
They have taken the ball away 18 times so far this year. That is tied with the Saints for the most in the league.
Yeah,
you are
the Saints
absolutely
have played
right.
9 games, whereas they've only played 8. So that's why they're first in turnovers per game.
So protect the damn ball. Oh my God. I think that they will. I think that what's going to happen is Kyle's going to say, we got to protect the ball. We got to run the ball with Christian McCaffrey. We got to run the ball. We got to run it. And then when they don't run it, then it's going to be like, oh no, We can't run the ball. What are we going to do? So I don't know. I'm nervous. I'm very nervous about this game. I've said at many other places that I've been on, I would take the Jags and the points in this one. I don't know why the 49ers are favored in this game. The Jags are at home. They've won 5 straight games. The Niners are in free fall. They've lost 3 straight. To me, I would take the points, but that's just me.
Well, you do this sometimes. You talk about the line and who's favored as if Vegas sets that based upon who they actually think will win. Now, they set that to get the most betting action they think they can get in the way that they want to get it.
Yes, thank you for explaining gambling to me.
Well, you keep using it like, I can't believe, I don't understand why the Niners are favored in this one. They're not. Vegas just set the betting line so that suckers take it.
But they're telling you the sucker bet is the Jags.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. I don't think it's the sucker bet. I think they're just wrong.
We're going to find out.
So what's your official prediction?
I'll predict the Niners are going to win. Do I know what this team is? No, I have no effing clue. The last 3 weeks are completely perplexing to me. So predicting what this team is going to be coming out of the bye is a fool's errand to me. I'm a fan, and this team has been great after the bye in recent seasons. So I'll predict that they're going to win. I don't think it's going to be an overly high-scoring game. Both offenses play at a slow pace. So I think it's not going to be a game where you get a lot of big plays and quick scoring drives or anything along those lines. I think it's going to be something like a 24-17 game. It's not going to be overly high scoring.
Red Eye watching on YouTube. Vegas is wrong 90% of the time.
It's amazing they can build multi-billion-dollar casinos when they lose money left and right, huh?
Red Eye, do you think that they have all those fountains out there in Las Vegas because they're wrong 90% of the time? You think that they're only right 10% of the time and Las Vegas exists? Like, no, they're wrong.
This is not stats, okay?
They're certainly better than I am. They're not wrong. They're almost never wrong. Okay. Sometimes they are, but almost never. And it's freakishly ridiculous how accurate they are. You know how many times they'll have a team favored by 2.5 and then the other team will win by 3? Like, it's absurd. So I don't know what Las Vegas you're paying attention to, Red Eye, but no, they're very right.
Yeah. I mean, Vegas, they have the best inside information. You think Schefter has inside information? No. Like, what do you call them? The human 1 minute warning or something like that? Because they go, hey, this is going to happen. We're going to make a public announcement in 60 seconds. Go ahead and tweet out your thing.
Yeah.
No, Vegas gets info nobody's gotten.
Right. Absolutely. By the way, did you catch my show with Grant this week?
I did not.
Okay. Well, I fell into a YouTube rabbit hole and I came across the Singletary rant, and turns out it perfectly applies to the 49ers. Real quick, Singletary.
We go out, we hit people in the mouth.
They haven't been doing that.
We are not a charity. We cannot give them the game.
They've been doing that.
We execute from the very start of the game to the very end of the game.
They haven't been doing that. It's absurd how much it applies.
2 things. One, I mentioned that on an instant reaction. The team was reminding me of those teams immediately before Harbaugh. Tons of talent, but undisciplined. 2, maybe we need another depancing to get this team going. And if that happens, I want it to be Kittle. Did you see my tweet about Kittle?
Yes. I thought you got that from me. I had that in 49ers in 5 days before your tweet that George Kittle and CJ Beathard have matching ass tattoos.
Of an address they lived at.
Right. Of a party house they lived at in college.
So I would have a question for George Kittle. We know you have an ass tattoo of 830 Miller, which was your address when you were at Iowa. On the other cheek, do you now have Cabo Crew?
I just think the funniest part of this story is not that they have the tattoos. It's that other people walked into the shower and looked at Beathard and Kittle and were like, why do you have matching ass tattoos?
That's not a topic I want to get into, but it's not like you're sitting and staring, but peripheral vision exists, especially for professional athletes. So when you see something that's probably stark ghost white, and all of a sudden there's something that's not that color, you're going, is that really a tattoo on the guy's butt?
Oh, I think you noticed it. Yeah, you don't have to be checking out somebody to notice that they have matching tattoos. That was the weirdest thing ever. It perfectly.
And I didn't even make the video. I was literally on Instagram Reels. I was working nights. I was about to leave work. I pulled up my Reels, and that got suggested to me, and I was like, "What the hell is this? And why was this not a big deal?" Because it was like a preview of a football life story that's probably, I'm assuming, it's going to be on Kittle, but it had to be like literally a preview that ran on NFL Network. So how did it not become a viral story already? And then my post ended up getting like 1 million views of me just literally screen recording a video somebody else made.
Did you just tell that whole story just so you could say that you had a post that got 1 million views?
No. I think it's hilarious that they have matching tats on their asses of an address.
Yeah, whatever. To each their own. You do you, George. Red Eye is mad at me now because I pointed out his ridiculous comments. So now he's going back to the tried and true. Has Guerrera ever played a sport, or does she just talk shit about sports all the time and people that play them? You think you're hurting me by referring to me as she? Like, is that your big plan? Give me a break.
Who is he? He's a 49ers player in disguise.
Does it make you mad that I get to talk about sports for a living and I weigh 140 pounds? Huh?
Hey, Rob, your sports comments are so invaluable. That guy is here giving us views.
My sports commentary has got you in my stream watching my show. Your sports commentary has you in the comments. All right. Anyway, enjoy your Thursday, everybody. Let's go Niners. Just a quick reminder, Levin and I, well, actually, I don't know. Are you going to be in the Instant Reacts?
No.
Oh, okay.
I might be able to join for 15 minutes like I did one other time, but no, I will not be able to be there the whole time.
All right.
Which annoys me to no end.
You tend to do that to people, even yourself. So, all right, I will be here. We'll see if I can grab a co-host, but don't worry. Immediately after the game, we will be live reacting to everything here on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitch. Please join us for that. It's one of our most fun shows when they win every single week. If not, come for a little bit of therapy. What is this? Jan says show some cleavage. Well, I already have skip. I mean, I could expand it there. It's not going to be fun for anybody. But anyway, please join us for that. Hopefully they win and get back on track and we could celebrate together. Rate, review, and follow the Gold Standard Podcast Network. Like and subscribe to the channel. If you hit the little bell, you'll get notified every time we go live, not just after the game, but every single weekday. We will be live here for you. Levin, I will miss you on Sunday, but I hope you have a good rest of your week and a good Sunday.
Say that again. You're going to miss me?
Yes, I will.
Just not the same without me. I know.
It's better. It's not the same. It's better. Have a good one, everybody.